Captain Fennell is someone who, notably during his final duty station as the Chief of Intelligence and Information Operations for the U.S. Pacific Fleet, saw what the Chinese were doing and warned very, I think, insightfully about what would be coming, in particular in a decade of concern in which we now find ourselves, namely in which the Chinese have put into place not simply the means to wage this pre-kinetic, unrestricted warfare against us, but the old-fashioned shooting kind as well. He is a very important member of our Committee on the Present Danger China, and someone with whom we have collaborated closely in a number of ways, including by also featuring him on our television program, Securing America. We caught up with him earlier today on the show and have asked him to basically discuss what amounts to unilateral disarmament with respect to the hard-won islands of the Central Pacific and the degree to which our mortal enemy is likely to benefit from such disarmament. Let's go to the videotape with Captain Fennell at this point.
It's a very strategic area, and the happenings that have been going on in this American territory, the Northern Marianas, we wouldn't know a lot of it except for Cleo Pascal and folks like Grant Newsham, but Cleo especially has been in country, in the region, meeting and talking with these people over several years. And so when we learned of the death, untimely death of the governor early this month, or last month now, in July, a lot of concern about what were the circumstances of that and the whole surrounding of his passing. But more importantly, his life and his message brought up the fact that what we're really talking about is this infiltration of the People's Republic of China into American territory. And so one of the things that, in addition to all the depth of knowledge that Cleo is providing, I am concerned about the fact that while the President of the United States has talked about that the United States border is closed, I think we should be really precise in saying the continental United States borders have closed on the northern and southern borders with Canada and Mexico. But it's clear from what Cleo's told us and what we know from the fact that Chinese can come in without visas into the Northern Marianas, that we have an open border in this very strategic area. And so in addition to getting the FBI and other agencies in there to investigate what China's done in terms of money laundering and corruption in that government, we need to have the Secretary of Homeland Security, the border czar, and maybe even the Department of Interior looking into what's going on there so that we can cauterize and seal this off. Because if we don't, the implications are severe. And as we've been talking about, and we know this is area that we fought for over 80 years ago. And American Marines especially, but sailors and others, died fighting on these islands throughout the Northern Marianas and other parts of the Pacific and the Western Pacific and the South Pacific and the Oceania, these island nations like the Solomons and Kiribati, Tarawa. And so if we allow the Chinese to infiltrate, not just to have corruption and influence our governments there, but they're undoubtedly infiltrating what I would call a fifth column of not just political agitators and political warfare agents, but they're going to infiltrate military actors, people that are going to, in the event of hostilities, whether the Chinese decide to invade Taiwan this year, next year, 2027, or by 2030, those people that are from the PLA that have come into these areas, into our territory, they can be used to disrupt our military operations, and they'll undoubtedly be used to kill American Marines again. So nobody wants to see that, and that's why this issue is so strategically important. I mean, geographically, Saipan, Tinian, these bases are closer to China than they are to than Guam is. So it gives the Chinese a stepping stone, if you will, to be able to step from mainland China across the first island chain into these islands and then be able to easily reach Guam or other areas. Who knows what they could do with covert operations, with special operations forces. Their submarine force can be used to infiltrate more supplies and ammunition or things of that nature in the extreme case. There's no evidence of that now, but one of the failures that we have in our intelligence community and our government, in our quote unquote China hands in Washington, D.C., is that we do what I call this carpenter's rule of assessment. We snap a chalk line and we say, well, there's no ammunition there today. There are no Chinese submarines in Tinian today. There's no Chinese tanks or bombers in Saipan today, so there's nothing to worry about. But if you look at the strategic trend line of what China's been doing over the last 25 years and their expansion across the Pacific, you have to project in your mind and your intelligence to say, where will they be in 5 years? Where will they be in 10 years? And how will they use those facilities that we're upgrading right now, that Indo-Pacific Command is upgrading? How can those be turned around and co-opted by the PLA to be used against us to dominate the Pacific and destroy America's military capacity in this region, from our air forces and our 7th Fleet and Pacific Fleet, and obviously the Marines of the 3rd Marine Division out of Okinawa and other places in the Pacific there. So we have a big problem where we're not recognizing that, and as you said, and I think Cleo says it as well, I mean, people are not educated that this is American territory. It's not a state per se, so it doesn't have the same legal status in some areas, but it is American territory. And Americans have died for it, they fought for it, and they risked their lives for it 80 years ago. And through our own neglect and hubris and laziness and arrogance over the last 80 years, we've neglected this. We've neglected it from a political warfare perspective. We've neglected it from a good partner perspective. And with a little bit more investment and a little bit more attention to this, we can get this back, because the people in these islands are inclined to be supportive of us because they know what we did. They agree with our values. They don't agree with the Chinese Communist Party's totalitarian dictatorship. They don't want any part of that. They're willing to go there if no one else will help them. And so it's time for Americans to step up.
Captain Pinnell, as usual, very incisive and very timely warning from you. Cleo, I want to basically, as I said earlier, explore some of the points that you made and our other colleagues to further illuminate what I think is clearly a strategic problem of the first order. And